I'm the senior narrative designer, and I've been with Good Game Studios for 6 years now. This is going back 5 years now since I've been working on Empire and E4K, and the very first thing I did, I think, was giving birth to King Eric. We needed a new tutorial character at the time, and we needed a load of events tied to him. There was a big marketing campaign with the Dancing King. So, yeah, it was a lot of King Eric-centric work early on. The part of the game I've worked on most, or put the most effort in thinking back, was the Beyond the Horizon event and also the Collector events. I was involved quite early on in both of those features. So those feel the most personal with me. There's a lot of events and features that I've worked on, but those are the two that I think I put my most narrative design skills into. The biggest challenge, without a doubt, is keeping the game fresh. Empire and E4K are both quite old as far as games go, but we still have a very loyal fan base. The aim is always to keep the game familiar and interesting for them, but also accessible for our new players. So it's finding that right balance, and that can sometimes be tricky, but it's a fun challenge. I have to say King Eric, because he was the one who introduced me to Empire, so I did a lot of King Eric work early on, so he would be up there for sentimental reasons. But I also love the work that Arts do on the Collector events, especially. They really raise the game for that. I mean, the work is always excellent, but for the Collector events, they always come up with fresh ideas, something really interesting and exciting that we don't really have in other areas of the game. So I really like the Collector event characters. I don't want to spoil it too much because I work with the design team, so some of what I say might be coming in the future, it might not be, so I'll keep my cards close to my chest. But I really enjoy strategy games and the combat involved, so I like to see more work on the commanders. I think there's a lot of potential with commanders that we can explore, hopefully in the future, who knows. But the strategy aspect of the game is something that I would really like to dive deeper into in the future. The narrative design and the writing for the game start quite early. We have design meetings where we flesh out the mechanics of new features and events, and then the next step is figuring out how these will be presented to the players, so the less mechanical, the less numbers based, so we give them a bit of flavour, we give them a bit of life and make them interesting. So that's when the narrative process starts, really, so very early on. As mentioned before, this is quite an old game, so we have to keep in mind that some of our new players may not be as familiar with some of the mechanics as our older players, so it's making sure that the text is informative enough for new players but not dull for more experienced heads. So it's all about balance. It's finding information and flavour. Programs, we have a language management tool which our translators use, but apart from that, we're pretty old school. We just put it into an Excel document, so it's easier to keep track of that way, and yeah, we take it from there. The part of the work I personally like most is whenever we have a new event or feature that Art can get their hands on early on, because you know that you're going to get some really cool characters, you're going to get some really cool artwork, some assets. They all need naming, they all need lore attaching to them, and for me, that's the most creative part of the whole process. That's definitely my favourite. Anytime I can collaborate with Art is always a joy. The best part of being a narrative designer is getting to work with the design team. A lot of the designers are experienced. I've been there for 6 years. There's guys that have been there for much longer than me, so you get to learn from them. But they're also very creative, friendly bunch, so we get to throw ideas at each other, we get to come up with new mechanics or things that we think the players will love. So those brainstorming sessions are always the highlight of the week. And then after it's been with the designers, it goes to art, and they throw in their points of view and new ideas that we hadn't seen. So the whole creative process is always a very enjoyable one.